Good afternoon. It is September 26, 2022. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Here's what we're looking at, really just a range day. And I've said this before, oftentimes these breakouts, they'll pretty much make a measure move. I didn't think about it. And look at that. It's perfect. So that's market geometry in action. These breakouts will break out to the high side and then break out to the low side just as much. It's really pretty fascinating to me, but just a range day, another choppy day, similar to last week, but it felt slightly easier than those days last week. But this stuff isn't really fun to analyze because it's just like there's just not a lot of good entries. But anyway, 5 o'clock. Okay, this was a little bit before 5 o'clock, but if you're in here, this is a second entry short and a double test. So with room, I think it's like 4 ticks back, 85.25, 85.20. So you got like 7 ticks back to the EMA. So I think that's good enough for 4 ticks. And you can see it bounces a little there before testing that and going lower. So, but it turns out we're in an uptrend, and you don't get a failure right here. You get a first entry, second entry right here. Oh, actually, it's actually a third entry, but you might look at that as a double top, first entry, second entry. But it's not a new low, so you can't take that. Come down here, we bounce, and you get a first entry, failed second entry. I marked this green. Oh, yeah, because they're going into highs. This looks like it might be, and it's a range day, so you know, you want to be careful here, but you know, maybe you were looking at the highs like that. Maybe you're looking at it like that. Let's see if you have it like that, and there's room for a scalp. I think I should probably mark this 99.25. So there's 7 ticks right there. So I guess I should. It's just that we just tested that, so you might consider it. I'm going to keep it green because it's a range day. But, you know, you might think, okay, well, we're ranging, so it's going to go down and test these lows. So that's a tough call right there. But it is, I mean, we're in an uptrend. It's just not extremely clear. But it might be blue, depending on how you see it. And we come up here, get a pullback, a bounce. Come here. Unfortunately, this looks like the second entry long, but the second entry comes right here, and this is congestive, so I'm not crazy about this one, but it does work. It's a second entry long, and then we fail to hit the highs, and we sell off first entry, second entry, and then you get a higher low, and there's only 4 ticks back to the EMA. That's why I marked this green. If it was more room back to the EMA, I'd mark this as blue. But if you see all this in this trend line, you get this first entry, failed second entry short. I think this is blue. It could be green though. And then we move higher and come down here and bounce. And that's when you should probably start to suspect that this trend line is going to give in soon. We didn't get a break right here quite yet, but get a first entry, second entry here, higher low. Maybe you consider that, but I think you want to hold off. Oops. When you see it get a break and this was coming up short, I think you want to hold off. And it's at the overnight highs. So I like this entry better. You get a first entry, failed second entry, and that's a nice move. What is that? 1150. So you could easily get like almost an 8-point move right there. And you get this higher low, but I don't think you want to take that. But you can see a lot of people like that. That's actually a second entry long. And if you're expecting a new high, then yeah, that's probably why a bunch of people jumped on it. I don't think you want to take that. But what it is probably all these people just taking their profits right here. But we rock it up, and then we form this range. And so now we've made a new high, and then we just start moving down. And I don't think you want to take this failure too congestive, but when we break out, test that midline, it fails. Then we break out again. You can see we test it once, test it twice. That's a double test of that price level basically, and it's a failed second entry long and it's a second entry short. I think you have to take that trade. Then we come down here, and this is a second entry short, but that's congestive, and it turns into a range. And it respects this midline and pushes lower, but still choppy. Comes out, breaks out, fails, comes back, and then it goes lower. And then we get this leg of correction here. And I don't like any of this. It's too congestive, too choppy. You can see people probably got trapped big time on the second entry long, and you get a second entry short right there. So maybe you take that, but that's just too congestive for me. And I just want to say this larger channel, I don't think you would have this drawn because it's not off the closes. It's off this like stem. So if you didn't have that, I wouldn't knock yourself. We get one leg, two legs down. We get some congestion here, comes up here, lower high. Now we're moving lower. And you can see we find support on this larger channel, but you wouldn't know that yet. And you do get a second entry short right here. Looks very congestive though, but I do like this lower high off this trend channel. And it's like a double test. So I meant to draw that. So I like that one. It bounces. We're chopping around here, and I don't think you can take anything in here. This is I don't think there's anything good in here, but at this time you might have this trend channel drawn. Double bottom looks like first entry, second entry, but that's very aggressive, and it's not clear what's happening. We form this range down here, and I think if you see all this, if you see all this, then this is a good entry. First entry, second entry short off the channel. But I didn't see this until later in the day, so not a big deal if you didn't see that. Come down here, you can see we get some type of channel down here. We get a break, some sideways action, new low, and then it reverses, and there's no way to get in on that. But then we come up here and we get the break. This is the first convincing break, and you get a first entry, no failure until down here, so you can't take that. And we get a break down here, and you get a first entry, second entry short. I like that to test these lows after that nice move down. And we make a new low, and we get a first entry, second entry short. But I'm not too crazy about that. It's just in no man's land. We don't know what's happening. We could get a reversal and just go higher. But yeah, you can see we're just going sideways, chopping around. I don't like any of this. Too congestive. We break out to the high side, back into the overnight range, and then you get this lower high. Maybe you consider that. Maybe you consider that if you're feeling super aggressive. I don't like it because of this support right here. But maybe you're thinking it's going to test a midline, and it actually goes further. Then we rock it up, form this range up here. Way too congestive. Don't take anything in there. Then you get a first entry, failed second entry, and I'm looking at this as a range, so I think that's good enough to test the midline, and that's exactly what it does. Bounces, first entry, second entry short. This looks pretty good to me. And if you draw the trend channel, I'd probably draw it like that. And overshoot. So, I don't know. This looks pretty good, but it could bounce and go higher. That's a tough call. But it looks pretty good. And then we just start going higher. and you get a spike in channel. This is really sideways. I think you got to look at this as a range, really. But if, I don't know, maybe you take this failure, and really it looks like that might be the failure right there, but this is really just sideways, so I don't think you should take that. When we come up here, we have a double test, and you get a first entry, failed second entry, long. That's also a second entry short. I think we'll at least test these lows, and you can see we come really close. It bounces, and then it goes lower and tests that midline. And what I just do is, when I see these legs like this, I'll usually just, draw my range according to that. And clearly this wasn't the top of the range because we made a double test up there, or triple test, so that's why I had that. That it bounced at that midline. First entry, second entry doesn't set up. We're just going sideways here, double bottom. This just looks like a failed break higher to me, with a lot of room back to the EMA, but it's not a great entry. This is actually a second entry short, but we're just going sideways, and that looks like it's at the midline. We break higher, and then it fails, and that's the end of the day. So that's how I saw it. I hope everyone had a great day and a great weekend, and I'll be back tomorrow.